Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the LCK playoffs. We are finally here. It is time for the wildcard. I'm Atlas. I am joined by LS for what could only be described as an extraordinarily auspicious day. LS, how are you?
I am feeling really good about to go into this series. It's going to be T1 versus Afreeca. I think the big question on a lot of people's minds is who's going to be starting in the mid lane today for T1, because this is the playoffs. And what's really important for T1, not only is that they win today, but they move on. And what they're really chasing is obviously the LCK Championship. But if they move on after this round and get third, I believe they're automatically secured into Worlds.
Yeah, if they get third place,
close.
then no one's going to be able to actually catch up when it comes to championship points, because of course they secured the 90 points and they only need the 70 that you get from third place to be unsurmountable. Insurmountable. There we go. There's the correct word. These are the standings, guys. These are the ones that you are well aware of as of the ending of last week. Damwon will be waiting in the finals here of the playoffs. DRX right behind them. Gen G going to be the next boss for either T1 or Afreeca, who are facing off in this best of 3 today. It's only a best of 3, guys. It could be an extraordinarily quick day, but we'll see whether T1's going to be able to continue finding success. Of course, they were able to topple DRX, but it was a 3-game series, and it was a very interesting one at that. So we'll just have to see what Afreeca is going to be able to do against the T1 Titans.
Yeah, I feel like Afreeca are really going to have their work cut out for them in this series. They're coming in as the heavy underdogs, and they've never really managed to put up any sort of a threat to any of the teams above them, even though they've decimated everyone on the eastern side. And now what we're looking at right now is obviously the playoff draw, and what every team is going to have to try to run through to eventually collide with Dom1 Gaming at the very end.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing who's actually going to make it up there. I think there will be some conjecture when it comes to the middle of these playoffs. I think this game, most people will be assuming that T1 should be able to take it, but Afreeca have been able to cause some upsets in the past, and especially in a best of 3 like this, you don't have that full test. We know throughout the regular season, you can just have teams that have bad days and aren't able to turn it around, even if there are close games. So Afreeca could find themselves a surprise victory, and we'll see whether they can do so. I don't know, after their most recent performances, they just really haven't seemed like the consistent team that we saw maybe at the beginning of spring. Maybe it flashes throughout the summer split, but it hasn't necessarily been an Afreeca powering up. It feels like they just don't really know what to do a lot of the time.
And I think that in tonight's series, depending on who's playing in the mid lane, things could actually get pretty chaotic. I feel like either one of T1's mid laners are probably just going to run a train on fly in mid, and I feel like the only way that Afreeca is going to be able to get edges or maybe translate something into a victory is if Keen either really pops off or they have some sort of really wonky draft that gives them a really big edge and then they get advantages early, because otherwise I can't see them taking down T1.
Yeah, and also history can't really see them taking down T1 either. It's only 2 match victories against the team over the last 2 years. And yeah, this is looking good as far as statistics are concerned for T1. But like you say, there are differences when it comes to the mid lane. Things have been changed up, and Afreeca will be hungry to try and get themselves through here. They do have another chance, of course, if they do make it to the World's Gauntlet, but I don't know whether you're going to, hedge your bets on being able to run a gauntlet once again. It's certainly feels like this is where you're going to make your run, and getting rid of T1 early is definitely going to be something Afreeca wants to look to do. So let's have a look at the points of the match. 2017 Summer, 2019 Summer, and it's all about T1's miracle run versus no longer a gatekeeper. It's time for Afreeca to keep others away from the trophy. And look, they managed to keep the bottom 5 away from the trophy. I just don't know whether the top 5 has been something they've ever been able to do.
Yeah, and I feel like the match, the points here really does put into good perspective what exactly is going to happen here. I mean, Kana also finished second, regular split, solo kill record. Will he continue to prove himself? Kana at a lot of points enters the argument for second best top laner, whereas I think he's really cemented himself, especially in the second half of the split, as probably the third best top laner in LCK. But when he turns it on, things can get really scary, and if Keen isn't able to add a lot of value to Afreeca, it's just going to be really shaky. So I'm really expecting a lot of chaos to unfold on the top side of the map, less so on the bottom. As we take a look at the solo kill rankings.
Yeah, Marin, of course, still out in front with 31 solo kills, but Canna just behind him, only 3 behind him. When we actually saw these stats sort of throughout, I think it was about the middle towards halfway through the second round, it looked like Canna wasn't going to be able to make it anywhere near Marin because that 31 solo kill stat is just nutty. But he got pretty damn close, and you can see everybody else behind him by at least 5. So very impressive there for Canna. And as we can see, some stats about good old gatekeeper Afreeca with their 83.3% win rate against anyone below them and a 6.7% win rate against anyone above them.
And this is really the defining thing of Afreeca, is they are truly the gatekeepers. I don't think there's any other region that really has a team quite like this one that is so consistent at losing to the teams above them and destroying everyone on the right side of the bracket, whereas in the LCK, we define it as the east side of the bracket and the west side. And obviously, Afreeca have pretty consistently towed that line without ever really being able to cross it. So we'll see if they can finally break that streak here today. But T1 in playoffs, historically, something about the infrastructure of the team, the staff, whatever it is, they always historically do tend to turn it up and appear much better than they ever do during the regular season. So team stats, we're taking a look at this. This is a little bit all over the place. It feels like the stats are pretty scattered. Average game time between both of these teams, though, both of them do like to go the distance. They're only separated by 11 seconds.
Yeah, and I think this goes to show a bit of Afreeca's craziness when it comes to how they play the game out. They also don't necessarily close games very effectively. But you can see win rate with a gold lead, definitely very, very good here for Afreeca. So if they are able to actually be ahead at 20 minutes, look to see them actually be able to eventually finish out the game, even if it is not necessarily very fast. As we are going to have a look at some of the predictions. I think if it was anything other than a T1 win, then you'd be absolutely insane at this point in time. But the 2-1s going over to Cloud Templar with his big data. I don't know what big data necessarily means, but it makes me very happy. And I like how why are yours just latitude and longitude? What's going on there?
Launch lat, Atlas. What's Afreeca's launch
why?
lat? Their launch lat is the gatekeepers of the LCK. It's the prime meridian line. All
Got
right?
it.
They're never able to cross into the west. They just can't do it.
God.
So T1's going to be asking them launch lat after the series tonight, I'm pretty sure.
That's perfect. I'm glad that you came up with something that you could write down that is recognizable both in Korean and in English. You did a very, very good job. Oh my god. Yeah. The good old Meridian line. I didn't know that we were going to be talking about that on this broadcast, otherwise I would have studied up a little bit. But that's neither here nor there. I need to read more Dan Brown, something like that. Looking forward to getting into this series, though. I think this is going to tell us a lot about T1's form moving on up, and I think against Gen G is going to be their first big test, assuming they're going to be able to win here, and this will tell us a lot about what's going to happen there, or whether it's going to be Afreeca taking them on instead, if they're able to actually get that upset, which, ladies and gentlemen, it will definitely be an upset. There's no way anyone can expect Afreeca to necessarily win this game.
Yeah, I feel like they're coming in, again, like I said earlier, heavy underdogs. I don't know how they're planning to prepare for this series, because it's only been a few days, actually, since the regular split has ended. It's not like there's a major difference, and there it is. The lineup for today, it will be Closer in the mid lane, and I actually feel like this is more problematic for Fly, given how Closer likes to play.
Yeah, he's definitely aggressive, and he also, in their first matchup, I believe, got a couple of solo kills up against Fly as well. It definitely wasn't exactly a mid matchup that Fly super enjoyed. And Closer retains a lot of his win rate, only falling to Showmaker so far as mid lane opponents. He was able to topple Chovy in both of the games that he played up against DRX. Unfortunately for Faker, wasn't actually able to do the same in game number 2. And I think that has a lot of impact on the reason that Closer is actually starting. He might need to change his name soon to Starter instead of Closer, because he's been starting a lot more.
Opener.
Yeah, maybe he can be Opener.
Well, he better not take it too literally. All of a sudden, he starts opening mid lane, and Riot starts issuing fines. I'm not sure.
As long as his name isn't Runner, that would be good.
Yeah. Well, key player, obviously, between them two. In closer stats, remember, he doesn't have a whole lot of games, given when he did start playing for T1. He wasn't with them for the entirety of the split. So this is round 2. KDA, he's second. And solo kills, he's actually first. They're tied, actually.
Yeah, Fly's actually been
That's
picking up
pretty
a few extra ones. In the second half of the split, he's found himself some moments, and let's see whether this is going to be one of them. I'm going to be training my eyes a lot towards the bottom lane. I think Mystic has been very hit or miss in recent weeks, and I feel like his, mindset and the way that he plays can tell you a lot about how Afreeca is going to do. So look to see whether, Mystic and Ben can actually play this one out effectively. Remember, there were crazy substitutions last time we saw Afreeca, and we don't necessarily know how things are going to go. But here we are, into ban and pick for game number 1, T1 versus Afreeca. They have switched colors, as T1 will be starting on the blue side. They did get side selection, and expect, ladies and gentlemen, that most teams that do have side selection available will be picking that blue side, as Renekton first ban, Lilia second ban, and the Orianna taken away from Fly, with Camille and Set and Nidalee taken off the board here by Afreeca Freecs. Is Canna, let's see what he wants to lock away, whether that 80 carry priority is going to remain, as it theoretically is, with the Lucian Triflex coming in.
Yeah, this is going to be Lucian perhaps getting B1. Now, like you just mentioned, he is a Triflex. His buffs are very oppressive in pretty much every lane, but no, they're actually going to swap over to the Caitlyn. They're going to take that away from Mystic. And we'll see if Afreeca just instantly responds with Ashe. That's obviously one of Mystic's premier champions that he has gravitated towards, even before it was super popular. And now Afreeca, they're hovering the Nautilus. Not sure if they will lock it in. And again, I really feel like they're going to need some unorthodox ban pick here if they're going to find an edge against T1.
Well, they don't necessarily need to lock away the Ashe right now. They can take a priority jungler if they would like to, and Volibear is available with Nidalee, Set, and Lilia all banned. And so I wouldn't mind that pick, but Dread's just going to go straight into Graves. Okay, of course, you do have to change your mindset just a little bit when it is Dread playing as opposed to Spirit. He does like to get a little bit more aggressive. We'll see whether he goes the Smid Ignite that our friend Malrung did love so much when he won his first match ever. As now Cuz thinking about taking away the Zoe here for closer. Definitely closer's most played by a long margin. But it looks like the Olaf might just come in instead, and he will lock that one away.
And with Olaf and Caitlyn, I mean, they're really setting up for lane control pretty much across the board. It looks like they wanted a little bit more time to decide on the Zoe before just electing to lock her in. And I think the Graves was coming in preemptively, almost as a means to dissuade T1 from going for the Volibear. Obviously, Graves does not have the best statistics here in the LCK. 5 wins out of 25 total games. Afreeca, they're going to respond to the Zoe pick with the Twisted Fade.
And this is going to mean the bottom lane can get pinched by T1. They're not going to have to worry about an Ashe. They can ban yet another pick away from Mystic as well. I expect that Afreeca do have something planned, but with Twisted Fate making it available until, third pick on the red side, they're just deciding that they need to lock that one away and see what Fly is going to be able to do with it, being able to get around this map and augment some of Dread's ganks potentially. Kalista going to be taken away first, and then, ladies and gentlemen, you would assume that Ashe will be banned. As Morgana taken off the board, might be yet another effort pick just taken away. I know Bard's been nerfed, but is certainly something that teams have still been gravitating towards. But we shall see. I do expect another support ban to come in, though, from Afreeca, and it will be Bard.
Yeah. Bard getting banned away. Now, T1 banning the Kalista, it's a little bit surprising. I would have actually expected to just see Senna and Ashe banned away as the two premier counters.
Yeah.
given that the support pick for Afreeca is already locked in, and so you have counterpick support available to you, which means that you can really just gimp the bot lane of Afreeca. So feels a little surprising Wukong is going to be banned away, and I really don't know what these bans are designed to do, because top lane is still so wide open, and if Afreeca picks Marksman on R4, okay, you counter bot lane, then you choose a stable blind pick top lane, and there is a lot still available. So
they need to pick Lucian. I think if they pick Lucian, they can flex it to Mystic if they don't like the top matchup. But it's going to be Misfortune instead. With Ashe available, Mystic's still going to this Misfortune. And I don't think the Ashe nerfs were necessarily bad enough to warrant completely stepping away from her. We saw it exemplified last week. But it will be the Misfortune this time around. They're just hoping that they'll be able to create enough disruption in order for her to actually be able to channel the bullet time. And let's see how it's going to work. There's T1 thinking about Leona.
Leona being picked up. Gonna get locked in. Now T1, they need a blind top lane champion. Now, they could go Lucian and put all their eggs in the Zoe basket. That would definitely... Ooh, is that top Galio? No. That certainly would not
can't be happening. Top lane Caitlyn with Galio ADC.
Oh, there it is. Okay, so Lucian will be locked in here.
Yeah, and I think we were all expecting that, right? I don't think anyone's surprised by the Lucian being picked up here, but Keen must have a plan. They must have known that this was going to happen.
Malphite?
Oh, God, do it.
So I feel like the best R5 slam here is definitely Malphite. Alternatively, you could go for Scion or something of that nature, but it looks like Keen wants to try to fight fire with fire. And
this is dangerous.
Yeah, it's extremely dangerous. Afreeca, with that Akali R5 lock-in, there is zero insurance policy on this team. And then on top of that, to make matters worse, their lanes are all losing in terms of control, and so Olaf gonna be pretty enabled, and I don't know what Dread is realistically supposed to do. The one upside, though, is that with Twisted Fate being there, with Akali not really being on-hit-centric, etc., there's not a whole lot of reason to have Ninja Tab Eyes on the side of T1, so if Graves goes, like, pure lethality, he can definitely hit like a truck, but the amount of weight put onto Dread in this game is just... it's quite insane.
Yeah, this is a dangerous one, and actually, like, to go straight into playoffs and to use Dread, who's played like what 3 games or something in the summer season, like it really has not had a lot of stage experience. And yes, the teams are playing from home, but I don't know whether that's enough to like put all of this pressure on him. And I think he's going to need to group up with Fly, especially, you know, after the Twisted Fate hits level 6 and does have that Destiny Gate available. It has to be both of them ganking, because I don't think that Graves is going to be able to do it by himself, especially in something like an Akali lane. And they have to be ganking that lane. There's no CC going into it unless Twisted Fate is there.
And I don't know what to feel for Afreeca. This is the opposite of what I envisioned for a type of draft that they should have approached the T1 series with. And if you're T1, I think that you're feeling real good coming out of draft here in game number 1.
I don't know. Afreeca has all of the pressure on them already. All of the pressure. T1 just needs to play a game of League of Legends, and then theoretically, in the end, they'll win. That's what it looks like to me. And I know it's weird saying that about an Olaf composition, but if Afreeca just goes even, then Teddy's going to be gigantic. Closer's going to be able to find those picks that he's looking for. And Canna, I think this is one of the premier Lucian top games, unless something goes absolutely catastrophic in the early game and Keen's able to outplay him. But it's relying on outplay, and I don't think you should ever draft like that.
Yeah. I'm not really sure what Afreeca's thinking. Perhaps what they're imagining on R5 is that, well, the way that the draft is lining up in mid, jungle, and bot lane, if Keen doesn't have some sort of heavy influencing pick, they might think that they just lose anyway, but Malphite can be pretty influencing in this kind of a game.
Yeah.
Against T1, but he didn't opt into it, didn't try to go for any sort of the tanks, and so we'll see what he can try to do here, but really the ball is in Kana's court, and if he's on his game, this should be really, really hard.
And already Kenna has won that one game on Lucian, but it was a very, very convincing one. And we've seen the Lucian just find so much more popularity. Yes, there's been a whole bunch of buffs, but he's been played this whole season, right? For better or for worse. And so a lot of players have a lot of experience with this particular pick. And I'm frightened for Keen. But Keen has done crazy things in the past. This guy has let us down, but he's also made us believe in the past as well. And if Keen's feeling it, having a first win on the Akali top here in a matchup that can be very, very tough would definitely help with Afreeca's momentum. So, look, sometimes you got to throw a gauntlet. Like, this is a haymaker draw. And if they win, it's going to say a lot for how the rest of this is going to go.
Yep. We'll see what is going to happen. It looks like Olaf is just going to go for the full clear. Keen already getting bullied. Now, one of the things I'm worried about, though, is Kana is doing the classic. The push 2 into do nothing. And so this wave's going to crash. No, Atlas. It's
oh, that's I thought he was walking around the corner. Oh, I was waiting for the cheetah.
This is pretty good for Keen. He's going to feel pretty happy with this having happened. He's going to get poked a little bit on the cannon wave, but it's still a much better line that he ever could have hoped for, especially with his Graves having opted for the path that he did. You can see Olaf, I mean, he's full clear Philip right now, as he's finishing his golem camp. And with Teddy and Effort having the control down in bottom that they do, Cuz should be able to pick up the right side Scuttle Crab. And Kana just continuing to try to just keep Keen underneath the turret.
Yeah, we can see as well that Dread's trying to go for the full clear at the same time, but he is a camp behind, both of them going towards opposing Rift Scuttlers, as Keen is very, very close to dying. And he's not going to take that backflip. That is not one that you want. As this is absolutely what we expected, right? Dread's going to come in now, see whether he can actually affect something, as he will get tagged by the red buff. Minion wave comes in, but a little bit too late here, as Kenna's going to have to play around it. Does so quite nicely. Piercing Light comes in, and now Dread's finding the way through, but being Graves and fighting in a minion wave is just the most tilting thing ever.
Yeah. But I mean, he does what he came here to do. He gave Keen actually a free reset, and so this is a pretty big blunder. And we knew that this was a line that could end up happening based on how Kana played waves 2 and 3, and then chose to still stick around for wave 4, even though he wasn't accomplishing anything. And his Olaf on the other side of the map was full clearing, going to get bottom Scuttle Crab, and they must know that Graves is inevitably pathing to top lane. So even though he's still up in CS, this is not the ideal line that Kana would have envisioned for himself.
No, absolutely not. He is going to go home. He'll head back up with a 7 CS advantage. Both top laners teleporting back up there. But we've got double cloth armor now, and the closer Keen gets to that Seeker's Arm Guard, the happier he's going to be. And Ben finds a bit of damage there onto Effort, who just eclipses most of it. He will be fine. Kana with the double Doran's Blade. Exactly what we were expecting, trying to dominate this lane as much as he possibly can. But now if a gank comes in, of course, Kana didn't use his flash, so he's not exactly worried about a gank too much. But if a gank is successful now, that's when this lane can go absolutely haywire.
Yeah. And, I mean, what's happening here at this point is bottom lane is slow pushing back into Leona and Caitlyn, and Olaf is lined up really well to actually get a gank off. And this is a very damning timing for Afreeca, because Miss Fortune doesn't have teleport. So if Olaf comes down into bottom and actually gets a successful gank off, it doesn't even necessarily need to kill Mystic and Ben. This wave can indefinitely freeze him. This is the timing for it. And look at Graves. He's ending up on the opposite side of the map. And I am really surprised that Olaf doesn't just actually run into the lane, because even making MF and Nautilus back off here and just miss the entire cannon wave is a massive victory. But T1 shoving, and I'm scratching my head, Atlas.
Yeah, they're shoving, and they just saw the Graves, and instead Cuz is like, nah, I need a Cloud Drake. So he's going to go for that one. Great double up there from Mystic. As it's so strange that Mystic has gone for the Misfortune into our last remaining Misfortune player in Teddy. I don't know whether that actually means anything. Of course, we did once upon a time have everyone playing Misfortune, but Teddy was the last one that really was picking it these last couple of patches. As Keen now feels like he can actually play up in this lane. Canna, understanding that his jungle is on the opposite side of the map, everyone knows that because everyone just got informed. So he's not able to actually play as aggressively as he would like. As you can see, the gold completely even at this stage. As Canna, the all-in comes through from Keen. He will pick up a turret shot, but Canna can't enter the lane again. As now the Destiny comes forward. Dread's here as well. They're waiting for the minion wave as Closer teleports in. They're going to trade an ultimate for a teleport, so already it's a win for Afreeca.
Yeah, I mean, right now, at this point in time, Afreeca is... Well...
Fly?
Yeah, I'm not totally sure. What is
the gold
going on
card?
here?
As there's the culling. Flash has to come out.
Red Smite picked up.
Absolutely confused about what was going on here as Dread down very, very low. First Blood will come through for the Olaf now as Keen getting chased down. Fly will eventually come back, but Keen gets into the Shroud and will be able to flash himself out. But that was a brain fade from Afreeca, if ever I've seen one.
Yeah, Afreeca seemed really lost on what they wanted to do right there, and Closer and Cuz just able to help salvage that situation, and now maybe even a cannon minion's actually just going to go into the void here. Keen's going to miss out on. He picks up the Seeker's Arm Guard, but Lucian's going to have a much stronger recall after all of this is said and done, and this is not the kind of situation that Afreeca wanted to have happen off of the spot that they were just in a moment ago, because Keen, he was only down 7-8 CS in the Akali-Lucian matchup. He was in a really comfortable spot, all things considered, and they just blundered really hard.
Yeah. And also, if they had have just walked away after they got that teleport out of Closer, that's still a win.
Yep.
100%. Trading teleport for ultimate, you'll always take that. But they were a little bit too aggressive. They were never going to be able to 3v2 dive anyway, so I just don't know why they were just hanging around.
I'm not totally sure what the thought process was. Off the reset, Lucian does get the Hex Drinker, and it does have quite a lot of value against Nautilus, TF, and Akali. So definitely not the worst purchase that he could go for. Graves is falling pretty far behind Olaf. And down here in bottom lane, I mean, T1, they almost have their second plate captured. Ocean Dragon's coming up second.
It's not the worst news bottom lane, though, because Mystic is ahead by a little bit of farm as these waves do reset. And yes, they've been getting pressured in the lane, but being able to get some other work done is definitely working out here as, yeah, in goes Fly, and then just watch him wait in the brush. I don't really understand what the thought process was.
Because they knew that Cuz was coming because they just used Destiny Gate. So I don't know what he's doing. I also don't know why he didn't just try to flash and then go for the Blast Plant, because if Olaf has Ragnarok active, he actually doesn't follow regardless. And then you would just leave Dread to his own devices to try to get out. But as played, just very sloppy execution. It seemed like no one knew what each other wanted to do there. And so T1, they find themselves with an advantage at the very start of this all.
Yep. It's what we were expecting, but I wasn't expecting it to go quite like that. There's Keen up here trying to deny this last plate, or at least this second plate, as the culling is going to tag him. Keen will survive for the minute. I believe the plate was picked up.
Yeah, I believe the plate was indeed consumed. We can see that it was 3. Lucian was certainly in proximity.
Yep.
To end up getting that. You can see Keen almost back to about 60% HP. So Lucian definitely not going to have lethal anymore with the mana that he has available right now. And you can see Dread is around here, maybe wanting to plop down this Rift Herald. Destiny is available on Fly, so perhaps they'll try to go for some sort of a shove, but Dread just looking lost yet again.
Yeah,
and again,
I think if he had to just plop down Shelly, it could have been fine just to add a bit of extra pressure as Destiny comes in. They're going to try it again. Fly's going to turn up behind the turret. They have the minion wave this time as they're looking for the stun onto Canna. He's got no mana, and I have a feeling he's just dead. Fly's going to grab that kill, and if at first you don't succeed, try again.
Yep. They get a kill onto him. It does come at the cost of an entire minion wave in mid, and you can see Ben rotating here. T1's not going to get a turret plate. If they did, the gold and the EXP from the minion wave plus the turret plate would almost actually neutralize the Lucian death, because Kana got the whole wave prior to dying. So it's not like he was missing out on too much. So all of these things, they do sort of have to be juggled in. Ocean Dragon's live right now, but this gets real scary for Afreeca. Nice cancel by Ben.
Yeah, Ben is going to get the flash. And so gets the blast cone out. Fly going to dodge some undertows here as T1 are prioritizing the Ocean Drake more than anything else here this game. Graves doesn't have very much longer on this Rift Herald, as I believe Afreeca will give this one up. And Dread needs to put this Herald down. Oh, it's just so surprising that he didn't chuck it top lane. So I feel like getting Keen ahead is going to be a huge priority here for this team. As Bubble's going to connect, but well-placed minion wave there for Fly. It's going to mean that at least that extra damage is not going to be procced, despite getting hit by that next bubble as Dread comes on over. I believe understood exactly where Canna was. He's going back now. Now he's going to hop in. He needs to use this Rift Herald.
I have absolutely no idea what it is that Dread is. Dread, he should probably try to recall. Watch the axe accidentally just... No, okay, he's not even...
Yeah, right.
Okay. All right.
Hops on over. There's the Rift Herald. So finally, he's at least utilized that one. It was about to run out. So we did see one expire just the other day, so I was a little bit worried. Let's see whether Shirley can actually get some damage here, as she's already had her eye poked out. They don't get a charge. This is an absolute disaster. Backflip comes through, and Shelly is going to charge on down. Give a couple of plates over to Keen and to Dread. So, all right. No harm, no foul.
Well, gold score almost evened up here between these two teams. And Kana is actually down in EXP to Keen right now, which obviously is not a comfortable position to be in.
Yep, definitely so far.
The Lucian not getting the kind of advantages that he should have been able to secure for himself, and Teddy and Effort at this point trying to get whatever advantages they can get down there in bottom lane, but not really coming up with anything. And honestly, this early mid transition.
아니 용담 나면 줘야 돼.
아무도 없어 아무도 없어.
Have a listen.
가볼게. 조이 멀다.
허공이야 너거. 그냥 앞으로 간다 얘.
야 라인 지운다 이거. 그냥 줄 생각하는 거예요. 나이스.
이거 미드 피 좀 가야겠다.
탑에 전령 깔래 이제.
All right.
When we come back into live here, T1 now with 2 dragons, Mountain coming up next. And that's a pretty big dragon for them, given that a couple of their champions will get resistances. Obviously, Olaf, Leona. Lucian already has the Hex Drinker. He's probably going to end up picking up Merc Treads as well, I would imagine.
Yep, definitely very valuable against the double AP over the side of Afreeca.
And he's actually going for the Blade of the Ruin King build here on Lucian, which I actually find to be really surprising. We saw in the LEC, the Muramana Essence Reaver build used by Fnatic.
Yep.
It scales a lot better than the Blade of the Ruin King. And in solo queue, if you try it, your teammates are probably going to grief you, because the Muramana needs a lot of time to stack up. It needs to transition. Whereas Blade of the Ruin King, it's very oppressive in laning phase, with all the lifesteal, the Bilgewater Cutlass active, the Blade of the Ruin King active, etc. But if you can get the Muramana and the crit Lucian, you end up transitioning a lot better. And it's surprising to me that Kana, who already had a stunted build, is then re-pivoting back into what would just be an early game item.
Yeah. Maybe valuing sustain in a side lane or something like that, but actually you'd never want to do that against an Akali. She's either killing you or she's not, and so you may as well try and kill her right back. Sort of the way I think about it. Already had the Hex Drinker there for a little bit of added safety. But we'll see what Kanna's going to be able to do as we get towards a bit more of a mid-game transition here at 15 minutes into the game. A few plates went over to both sides, but as you can see, turret apiece, as we had a couple of those lane swaps. And bot lane was taken by Afreeca, top lane by T1. And as it stands, it is a very small gold advantage going over to T1 at this stage of the game.
And 50 seconds until that Mountain Dragon's going to come up. I'm not sure if Kana... Now, he does have double Doran's Blade in his inventory. And so he does have the ability to sell some items to get some gold. He's really close to that Blade of the Ruin King, and it would be pretty big for the Mountain Dragon fight.
Yeah,
but it seems like he doesn't have it even after that wave.
Yeah, both him and Keen looking for that pivotal item completion. And both of them being made out of Bilgewater colors, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Of course, Hextech Gunblade, Akali's favorite item in the universe. Thankfully, that didn't change after she had her rework. Meant that we didn't have to relearn exactly what Akali liked. It is just so important for her to get. As Shirley pops down in the mid lane, this time in favor of T1, as Dread going to get chunked. Mystic going to tank up the ace in the hold. That is a decent amount of damage now on a couple of the squishy members of Afreeca. Now Ben, he's going to go to sleep as he engages. Depth charge comes in, but he does have a stopwatch. Fly in to try and help them out, but you can see that Cuz is taking a lot of damage. Fly now going to get turned on as Closer goes back to his portal. And now Fly's going to have to go back. Dread doesn't have ultimate. Keen doesn't have teleport, and this should be a dragon going over to T1, and that's Soul Point as well.
That is going to bring this to Soul Point. I think there's no way Afreeca's going to... Yeah, there's no hope to steal this. Fly is not going to teleport behind them. That would be completely ludicrous to attempt that. And this is so scary because now the pressure's on for Afreeca. They must get the next dragon. But unfortunately for them, a lot of their champions are going to be pretty much the same champions. If Keen starts moving towards Azania's Hourglass at this point, picks up the Fiendish Codex, gets the stopwatch or something, he basically has the same item throughout. It's not like he's actually getting a whole lot of other power. Graves is going to complete into one lethality item. Twisted Fate's going to have his Lichbane available. That's going to be a nice little spike for him. But for the most part, Afreeca's power level at the next dragon should be assumed to be roughly the same that it was at right now. Whereas there's a lot of power coming for the side of T1 in terms of their utility. And that just is a pretty nightmare situation.
Yeah, I think the one difference is the Misfortune most likely getting towards an Infinity Edge by that time, so Mystic's going to do a lot more damage. As this was actually a decent attempt by Ben. I thought that was all over after that bubble landed and he decided to dredge line in. But he tried to help that one out, but then standing on the trap by Fly was a disaster. And that was what led to T1 being able to control everything.
Well, we come back down here into bottom lane. Keen's just going to try to shove in waves, do whatever he can. You see a Black Cleaver on Graves, so... That's a thing. And what I would like to direct your attention to, Atlas, is all of the armor on the side of T1.
Yeah, there's a chain vest.
Graves' AP teammates.
You see the chain vest and the ninja tabi and the cloth armor. You need to get through it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
I can't. I mean, lost sight over here.
I really do wonder, actually, if Dread is anticipating the opponents to get Mountain Soul, and that's his reasoning for picking up the Black Cleaver, given that they're going to have 12% amplified armor. But that realistically, I mean...
It's not really going to help, but that could be the thinking.
That could be it.
I can understand the theory, you know? But, like, there are a lot of things that are good in theory, but not actually good, you know?
Boris is definitely here. He's unleashed.
Yeah. He often is.
2.5 minutes.
He's not affecting Fly too much. Fly with his Lichbane already completed. Let's see what he's going to go for. Item number 3 might just be the Zhonya's, as he does have to deal with a lot of physical damage this game. And also being able to stopwatch the bubble, definitely a good move. As Closer is in a side lane at the moment. You can see Fly, he's going back home. We'll see what he's actually able to pick up. That Rod of Ages is stacked now, or at least will be when he's back on the Rift.
Yeah. And Caitlyn, really close to the Infinity Edge. We would assume that Fly or Mystic is as well. They are very, very close in the CS department, and Afreeca does have a couple more turrets, so even though Misfortune doesn't have the BF sword, the gold in the inventory, it probably is there. So, Closer right now just playing ping-pong with the waves.
Yeah, gets the cannon quite nicely. Jonah Strong is somewhere, smiling to himself. As another ace in the hole comes in. Good sidestep there from Mystic as Ben finds a dredge line onto the Olaf, but Cannon's going to jump in, and that is a very dead Nautilus. Fly jumps down, but Ragnarok's going to die. Everything is Teddy. That was a very weird move. Flashing on forward, trying to get the extra headshot, but isn't actually able to complete the kill onto Mystic. He's out of the fight, however, as there's collateral damage, not enough to get rid of effort. I believe just out of range As I believe that was the play that Deft was going for in the 1v1 that we saw him in a couple of weeks ago or a week ago. And this time Teddy was able to actually make it work. For trying to get that extra damage just wasn't quite enough.
Yeah, and I mean, this fight is pretty interesting because you get the Flash and the Cleanse out of the Misfortune, as well as the Ignite out of the Nautilus. And yes, it comes at the expense of some of the summoners on the side of T1, but T1 is the slow-moving Ballista. That's what their team composition is, and they're way less reliant on Flash and repositioning compared to Afreeca. And so, for these summoners to be down at Mountain Soul is pretty scary.
Yeah. Ben at least has his Flash back available again, so he's not likely to get caught out like that, but you're right, Mystic not having his summoner spells is just really, really sad for Afreeca, who have managed to at least get into position for this streak. This fly comes over. Ragnarok available again on the Olaf. They don't really want to focus him as he's very tanky, but does pop the Ragnarok there. And Ben's just going to tank up an ace in the hole that he really didn't want to, especially without the Aftershock as Bubble comes down. Keen in flank position now.
Yeah.
As Afreeca, they are going to start this one up, and let's see whether they can actually take it down before T1 gets in here. Shuriken backflip, not going to allow Keen in as the bubble is going to miss. And it is going to be the Drake, secured by Afreeca. T1 just a little bit slow, weren't able to stop that one from happening. But I don't think they're in too much of a rush as the bubble connects onto Mystic, but unable to actually get any paddle stars there. As Keen wants to actually find Canna here, but just going to take a lot of poke damage. Oh no, Fly. A little bit of sloppy footwork there as, Keen into his Shroud, into the brush. Dread able to get away from Closer. And now T1 are trying to jump in. Flash comes out. Fly steps back forward, now has to flash out. Zenith Blade going to connect. There's the ultimate out of Keen. He wants to try and get Closer. They do manage to find him as Bullet Time gets so much value. And now Fly's going to jump on forward. Wildcards doing a lot of work here as well. Dread is going to get a double kill before he falls down. But now Cuz is the last man standing. I don't know how they did it, but Afreeca have destroyed T1 in this team fight. And now Keen's hopping mad and will be able to help complete the ace.
And Keen, he's going to end up recalling right now, probably teleport back in to get the Baron away from T1. Let's take a look at how it all transpired. Taking a look at a replay from a little while ago.
Yeah, we went back in time a little bit there.
And you can see Teddy trying to get the animation cancels off onto Mystic to get that damage down. But even if he ends up killing Mystic there, it doesn't change that Mystic would be there for the Dragon fight. We take a look at how this transpires. Teddy eventually gets into range, he gets the slow off onto the Twisted Fate. Keen flashes out of the ultimate. Kana was being very reserved with the culling. Bubble lands onto Nautilus, but he got away. Keen gets in there, does so much damage with his ultimate, Fly's able to reposition with Destiny Gate, throws the gold card and the wild cards, tags Teddy, grabs the ricochet off the wall, and Afreeca end up managing to outdance T1 here. And now with the Baron, things get scary.
They really do. And Baron buff at 24 minutes is no joke as well. It's going to be hard for T1 to be able to get through these waves. As let's see what the power play is going to look like at the end of this one, because already it's a 4,000 gold lead for Afreeca. And I'm just really impressed by how they managed to actually make that fight work, because their composition isn't very good at all of these all-ins, right? And Ben tanks all of that damage, all of that CC, manages to escape, and then the bullet time positioning was outstanding from Mystic. And remember, he was a Misfortune without any summoner spells. It's really hard for him to be able to actually be useful with that ultimate, because he has to stand still. He has to make sure that he's very safe, and they just bided their time. Very impressive out of Afreeca, and it took a lot of patience to be able to make that one work as effectively as it did. Looking to the future, though, I mean, T1 still have the comp that they have, right? And we'll see whether they are going to make it work as this game continues to go on. It is by no means over yet.
I feel like the really scary thing, if you're a T1 fan and you're watching this right now, is Boris's children are being paid through college. You take a look at Lucian. He's going into Black Cleaver as his next item. And Zoe picked up an Oblivion Orb. Even though there was already magic resistance on the enemy team, they're probably going to start picking it up eventually for Zoe, or they're going to get utility items or more Mountain Drakes, etc. So Closer a little bit all over the place with his itemization as well. His inventory is a little bit stuck. Fiendish Codex, Seeker's Arm Guard, and the Oblivion Orb. Caitlyn's at 3 items, but I really feel like as this game continues to go on, Teddy's the only driving force. Olaf, he's going to be the same champion right now at 26 minutes that he's going to be at 37 minutes. He's never changing at this point. And all of his camps are essentially his teammates if they're ever in position to get them. And all of a sudden, Afreeca, 6,000 gold lead. It shouldn't have happened like this. This should have been an easy soul point game for T1, but they just really botched the ball in mid-game.
And now with 23 seconds until the Baron buff wears out, it should be Afreeca putting enough pressure in all of these lanes to guarantee themselves this second Mountain Drake that they can pick up. And that's only going to continue to make this game more difficult for T1, because Mountain Drakes, I think, have similar value for both sides, right? There are a lot of squishies on both sides of the rift, but, you know, Nautilus is going to be much harder to get through. Even Graves with his passive is far more tanky than a lot of people give him credit for. And so the Mountain Drakes are going to be helpful, plus double Zhonya's certainly helping out there. Dread does have his Ghost Blade completed, as well as now the Black Cleaver that we were mentioning before. Is Keen gets his Gunblade down onto Cuz. Decent amount of damage there, as there's the ace in the hole. Teleport to come forward from Canna. All 5 members grouped.
This is the really tragic thing here, though.
Right,
oh, man.
Dredge line. Ben's going to disengage. Oh, my God. Okay, we're going for the full Messiah play effort. Does go into his Gargoyle Stoneplate. Mystic going to cancel the bullet time just a little bit early. Ben going to survive for the moment, is now Keen inside the Shroud. Gets the ulti, gets the double right into the backline as now Canna has been singled out. And Afreeca have been so good at this so far this game. They make these fights so chaotic, and they come out ahead. Another max range Dreadline as Ben is on form today. My God, starting off these fights, making everything work. It looked crazy at the beginning. But look, you can't fault him if it works.
And I think T1, I think they just lose the game here. Effort's up in 10 seconds, but I don't think Teddy is going to be able to hang on. Cuz is up in 10 as well. We'll see what Teddy can do. He doesn't have the wave clear. Lichbane on Twisted Fate. I just think that Afreeca just took game 1.
Yeah, I think this is over. They've got enough damage to take down this Nexus easily as Ben finds another Dredge line. Teddy goes down just before the end, and Afreeca steal away game 1.
I do not know what just happened, Atlas. That was... There's a lot I want to say about it, but it's more so saved for like a VOD review or something. The laning phases for T1 weren't stellar, but they still got 2-3 Drakes. They had what should have been a pretty free soul capture if they just were in position in time. And then they chased a little bit too far. They were way too reserved at that fight. Came back to bite them. Opponents got Baron, and snap of the fingers, everything just went up in flames for T1. And remember, this is a best of 3. So T1 might just get knocked out right now and then have to go through the gauntlet.
And remember, they lost on blue side as well. I mean, blue side, even on this patch, has had a very high win rate. So this really should have been their game. We thought after the draft that it was going to look very good for T1 as well, but just unable to get that snowball. And I just can't get that one Dragon Soul fight out of my head where it felt like T1 had the upper hand, and then it all went wrong. I mean, all of the pieces were in place for T1, and then the execution just wasn't quite there. And that's not the T1 that we've been used to in 2020, right? We've actually been used to T1 not necessarily having all of the pieces in order. Their drafts have looked a little bit wonky, but it hasn't mattered because they've just been so good when it comes to late game team fighting that this was not an example of that. This was a whoopsie on Afreeca's side. This is why we thought T1 had the game basically in the bag, but I mean, just wasn't enough.
Afreeca made quite a few botched plays, but again, T1 wasn't as far ahead as they should have been out the gate in laning phase. But to go back again, they were still at 3 dragons. They were in a very good spot. They had summoner spell advantage at soul point, and they botched everything all of a sudden in mid lane. And it's games like these that make you sort of scratch your head and wonder, well, what is really going on? Why are they prioritizing some of the things that they are? Or why are they late to the fight? And in a very bizarre turn of events, Afreeca end up outdancing T1 in the long game.
Very impressive. This was the bullet time. Really, really nice stuff. And then with the low health bars, with the amount of damage Afreeca had, they were able to chase forward. I think this is an example of the power of Twisted Fate and Akali at the moment. We've seen both of these champions be very, very strong, but I just didn't think that the laning phase was going to be enough. As we've got Keen dancing around this fight, and let's see how he manages to get these two executes.
나 괜찮아 이거.
Says
우리
it's okay,
되게
it's okay,
가깝다,
this is
이거.
okay.
내가 갈렸어.
루시안 스타일라. 루시안 내들 루시안.
연막 깔아줄게 연막.
루시안 노플.
Pushing
야
the
조심해라.
flash.
야 이거 펴. 나이스. 야 조이 봐봐. 못 봐줘 나 못 봐줘.
예, 조냐다.
필.
용갈래? 용갈래 얘들아?
잡았어.
케이틀이 있을 거야. 케이틀.
밀자 미드 밀자.
케이틀 여기 있어.
노플 내가 플래시 큐 가든. 노플이거든 노플.
Saying the flash is push. Let's just push mid.
아야.
야 해볼래? 해볼만한데? 해볼만해.
Let's try it. Let's try it. Let's try it.
해볼만해 얘들아.
보이면
야
다른.
끝난 거 같아.
Let's try this, guys.
파워 두 개에서 못해.
Let's do it.
노틸 끌어줘. 못 박아.
캐틀 노플 스파이
야,
캐틀 노플.
Caitlyn no flash. Caitlyn no flash.
타워.
야 끌어줄게. 나이스. 맞다. 와. 좋았다. 아 김기.
Wow.
Well, the upsets have started already here for the LCK playoffs. Absolutely amazing performance out of Afreeca. I want to shout out Mystic as well. I mentioned at the beginning that he hasn't looked very consistent over the last few games. This was absolutely fine when it comes to consistency. He was able to lane it out just fine against the Caitlyn, was then able to do the majority of the damage in these team fights. And as you saw, T1 had an advantage for the entire early game. It wasn't huge, but they definitely were able to build that one up, but maybe just not by enough to get their comp over the line. I don't know, man. I think that Keen was absolutely amazing that game. I think that Fly, although it was very interesting, had some good ultis, but let's see what happens for game number 2. These playoffs just got very, very interesting with Afreeca up 1-0. Let's see what happens in game 2 after the break.